Welcome to Hauntcore Vault. If you are ready for horror tales, you are in the right place. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to know where are you from and what time you are watching. Let's begin. I've been a cop for a while now, and this is one of the calls that still haunts me. I get a call for a domestic assault that had just occurred, and I learn that the victim is at the neighbor's house. I get there and find the female victim's throat has been cut from ear to ear. The neighbor is holding a towel up to her slit throat, and the victim is struggling to breathe. The paramedics are on their way, and I take over holding the towel for the neighbor. I'm trying to apply enough pressure to reduce the bleeding, but not so much pressure that I'm strangling her. It was a delicate balance. Quick law lesson. You know that there are laws against hearsay, right? Basically, I can't testify in court about the events that someone else told me about and I didn't witness. The person who witnessed it would have to testify to it. One of the exceptions is what's known as the dying declaration. If someone is on their deathbed and believes they are about to die, their statements are exempt from the hearsay rules. I have some serious doubts that this woman is going to live. I want to ask her who slit her throat. In order for it to qualify as a dying declaration, I need to be able to testify that she believed she was about to die. So I asked her two questions. The first was, "Who cut your throat?" which she answered. The second was, "You realize that you may be about to die," which she answered yes. Our eyes were locked, and I still remember the emptiness in her eyes. Within a few minutes, the medics showed up, and my partner and I went next door to look for the suspect. The door was ajar, and we could hear a baby screaming upstairs. We went in with guns drawn, and the metallic smell of blood was overpowering. We made our way upstairs, past smeared bloody handprints on the walls, and found the child upstairs. He was unharmed, and the suspect was long gone. Thanks to the excellent performance of the medical staff, the victim survived. I met with her a couple of weeks later, and I was very apprehensive to speak with her again. I had basically looked at her and told her she was going to die. When she opened the door, I could tell that she didn't recognize me. She had very little memory of what happened after she was assaulted. I told her who I was, and she hugged me, crying, and thanked me for saving her life. The suspect ended up pleading guilty, so I never had to testify as to what I had told the victim that night. It still haunts me to this day. I had to tell a victim that she was going to die. My dad told me this happened on his first year as a cop. He was on patrol like any other day when he got a call from the base, he liked to call it that he needed to go to where a 911 call was dialed about a mile away. Kidnapping. He gets there and pulls up behind a green van sitting in the ditch and approaches it with his gun drawn. He opens the door, and the first thing he sees is a guy in his 40s in a blood-soaked shirt with blood still seeping from his neck where there was multiple stab wounds. He looks to the back of the van where he sees the kid, hands in his face, covered in blood and crying with a Swiss Army knife on the floor. You can imagine what went down. Sure enough, the kid was being hauled away in the van tied up with a nylon bungee cord when he remembered that he had his 3-inch blade pocket knife, so he cut himself free and stabbed the kidnapper 9 times in total in the chest and neck while he was driving. After my dad called it in, he stayed with the kid who was still sobbing while repeating, "I killed him. I fucking killed him. He was gonna take me away and rape me, so I killed him." I am not a cop, but my coworker's father is, and he hit me with this whopper of a story once. For some background reference, I live in Austin, and all these occurrences were with the Austin Police Department and happened in 1978. An APD officer pulled over a blue Mustang for not having a rear license plate, a man and woman inside. The officer tries to run the couple through dispatch, but the system is down, so he lets them go with the citation.
After letting them go, however, dispatch lets him know that the man has an outstanding warrant. The officer pulled the couple back over, and the man, David Lee Powell, knew his arrest was imminent. Crawling into the back seat, he loaded his AK-47 and opened fire as the officer approached. Mortally wounded, the officer called for backup before dying on the side of the road. Officer Villegas, my coworker's father, hears on the radio that an officer is down only 8 blocks away and takes off straight for where he thinks the killer is headed, the highway. Before arriving, however, he finds a blue Mustang in an apartment complex parking lot with its lights off, cruising at a really low speed. He peels into the parking lot, blocking the only exit off, and called for backup. Then a storm of bullets pound his police car, some from Powell's AK-47, some from his lady accomplice's pistol. As they are exchanging fire, Powell hurls a small oval-sized object towards the front of Officer Villegas's police cruiser. To the officer's horror, it was a hand grenade, and he was sure death was imminent. He explained his last thought being of his wife and kids, and how he was so sad he wouldn't be able to see them again, and that being the scariest moment in his 38 years on the force. But the grenade didn't go off, and Powell and his lady friend were out of ammo. As backup arrived, Powell took off behind the apartment complex into the woods, whereas the lady accomplice attempted to hide in a ditch. Seeing her in the ditch attempting to reload, Officer Villegas ran up to her and kicked her square in the face, shattering her jaw. Powell was later caught in the woods after a manhunt and received the death penalty for his actions that day. My uncle was a patrolman in a huge city for 45 years. His worst call went something like this. Nice day, nice area of the city. My uncle was working on a tactical team of officers assigned to his division. Around midday, they get a call. A man living on the 4th floor of an apartment building noticed a group of children no older than 9 climbing on his car in the parking lot below. Not in any kind of malicious way, just playing. The man, who was blasted drunk, goes and gets his .22 rifle from the closet, opens the window of his bedroom, and starts plinking shots off at the kids, who jump behind the car for cover. Panicked neighbors flooded the operator with calls of a man with a gun. My uncle and his partner were the first of many officers to arrive, and the man is still shooting out of the window. They call a 10-1 over the radio. Officers need help. His partner pulls their 12-gauge Ithaca shotgun out of the trunk, and they move in through a back entrance of the apartment complex. My uncle drew his .357 Colt Trooper, loaded with .38 specials due to department policy, from his holster, and they quickly cleared the stairwell until they got to the 4th floor. They arrive at the apartment and call out, "City Police!" and within a few moments kick the door in. The suspect was so drunk that he didn't even hear the officers make entry. They moved to the sound of the shots from the bedroom as the suspect empties magazine after magazine into his own car and the pavement around it. My uncle's partner goes in first, shotgun at the ready. My uncle comes in behind him, crouched low behind a dresser. At this point, more officers are on the scene and are streaming into the apartment behind them, revolvers and shotguns drawn. His partner shouts to the suspect at the window, "City Police! Drop the rifle!" The suspect turns and looks at them, and the next part is the part my uncle remembers best. The man stares at both of them and says with a heavy southern drawl, "You're both gonna die today." He pauses for a moment and then raises the rifle to face the officers. My uncle's partner blows a single round off from his 12-gauge and nails the guy in the chest, and my uncle squeezes off a round from his .38 and hits him in the lower right abdomen simultaneously. The man goes down, gets cuffed, and was pronounced DOA at the hospital. None of the children that were playing on his car were hurt, and all of the officers went home okay. This was in the mid-1970s. Things were different back then.
I am currently 28 and have been in LEO for 8 years in the southwest part of the U.S.
My story is one of hundreds, but selected to be told because I still think it was my personal scariest moment. That's for unknown reasons. But up until this point, I was 24 at the time, I had dealt with countless dead people, murders, gruesome fatal wrecks, had saved a man from bleeding to death from knife wounds, pulled an elderly lady from her rolled-over burning vehicle, tossed a bastard around after he was attempting to knife his GF in their apartment and ended up keeping her from dying. I had even faced psychopaths directly, stared into their soulless eyes and heard them tell me ways they would hope to kill me and enjoy it. I talked a man with a gun in hand out of being stupid and pointed at me or someone nearby. He gave up and dropped it in a bush. I have fought off pit bull dogs from biting at my legs while trying to detain their owner who was actively throwing scalding hot water on his girlfriend. Such is life as cop. But this day remains in the bowels of my soul. It was a Monday night, my Friday of a 4-day work week. Slow, as most Mondays during school times are, I am parked with my driver's door next to my partner's driver's door. It's cold and we are chatting it up about upcoming video games as our breath leaves trails of humidity between our cars. Then we hear it, that call that changed the way I think of houses forever. The dispatch calls for me and my partner who belong to the sector where the address is. It comes in as a domestic violence where the male forced the front of a gun into his wife's mouth and has now turned the gun on himself, making threats of suicide by cop. To clarify, no police officer ever thinks happily on the fact that someday they may have to kill someone. This is not our happiest moment, ever. We make cruel and unusual jokes, and sometimes in this nature, but that's a socio-defense mechanism to prepare us for those days. We get to the block and turn off our headlights, long before we see the house. It's huge, a mansion of castle-like proportions. It seemed bigger in the darkness in which we arrived. We approach on foot silently and hear a woman screaming. We ran to the front door, and out she comes, naked and bloodied. She had a gunshot to her shoulder that she held a t-shirt to. Her words were, "He's got the gun to my daughter's head." My partner asked for more officers on scene and medical to stand by blocks away. Our sergeant was coming also, but we could not wait. Not today. The insides of the castle were the darkest I have ever known. My whole body was cold, but my mind was hot, and I could just sense pure evil. To anyone who does not know what this is like, I can never explain it in enough detail. Pure evil you can feel inside your soul. It's like walking into fog all of a sudden, where life and happiness are far away on the outside world and not known, where the only colors are black, gray, and red. We approached the door with our firearms at the ready. I had my M4 rifle as this was involving a gun. The upper hand really helps in these situations, but this time it was irrelevant to the horrors inside this home. We ran inside and were confronted by a huge entrance area, of which we quickly took to both sides, waiting to identify this man's location. Then we heard them. Boom, boom, boom. Gunshots from somewhere in this dark house. Upstairs. Up the winding stairs with open banisters. For seconds, your back is turned to the landing. We ran up those stairs as fast as we could. Then we heard the girl, screaming as if her insides were being forced outward by bare hands. We started to run to that door as fast as we could, and right before the door, we heard 2 gunshots. Saw 2 flashes from inside of the room. My worst nightmare was happening. 1 bullet for her and 1 for him. I quickly realized that I could still hear the little girl. We ran inside to a bloody disaster. He was dead, and the little girl was tied up hogtie style. Blood was splattered all around the room. There was black candles and sacrificial things in the room. Thank God the girl was unhurt. The guy shot himself multiple times. 3 in his stomach, 3 in his chest, and he attempted 3 in his face, but the second was instantly fatal. I have no idea what was happening. I have no idea why the house was so dark. But the poor little naked girl was okay, and that's all I gave a damn about. She was later placed into state custody as a 2-year-old. Her mother, having satanic ritual tattoos, later admitted that they planned on killing the girl who had no documentation for her birth. She was given a name, Lila, by my wife and I, and we love her to death. We ended up registering to be adoptive parents and were awarded with her custody after a year of bullshit court stuff. The woman was found to be indefinitely insane and then died on heroin overdoses before one of the court settings. Lila is an amazingly gifted first grader, and she will have another sister in 5 months.
I am a police officer, and my scariest moment wasn't a fight, a collision, or anything like that. Here it goes. 3 a.m., I got called to a suicidal female in her low-income apartment. Me and my partner find the unit, and I knock on the door. It creaks slowly open, showing pitch black from the inside. I identify myself. "Ma'am, it's the police. We're coming in." No response, but I can see the shadows bouncing from a candle-lit bedroom towards the back. I step in the doorway and see the woman sitting on the edge of her bed. She is a regular-sized torso, but her arms and legs are really tiny, like a baby's. She is wearing filthy stained pajamas, and her tiny legs are kicking rapidly. She is whispering and shaking her head back and forth. I notice a few candles on the bedside table, which is stacked full of Virgin Mary figurines. The walls are covered with rough sketches of crosses, upside-down ones. "Ma'am, this is the police." That's when I notice the noose hanging in the closet, swaying slightly. Her wrinkled face snaps towards me. "You can't help me. The devil has me." Yeah, I wasn't worried about falling asleep for the rest of that night shift. I called my partner over. He took one look in the room and said, "Fuck this," and went to let the paramedics in. The lady is still staring at me. Her head is tilting back and forth, kind of like when you confuse a dog, but less hilarious and more terrifying. I say, "Ma'am, we're here to help you. The paramedics are on their way up." She whispers, "Do you believe in God?" The apartment is deathly quiet when I whisper back, "No, ma'am." She nods and says, "That's good." "Were you going to kill yourself tonight, ma'am?" "I've been dead for years. Tonight I was going to end the pain." She slides off the bed and onto the floor. She kind of does a push-up type pose on her tiny deformed limbs, still staring into my soul. The bed is covered in reddish-brown stains, one covering another, covering another. She bats something that is under the bed towards her and pulls out a small glass bottle. It says holy water on the side. She flips the top up, rolls onto her back, and starts splashing this fucking liquid all over her, and she goes back to kicking her feet frantically. "Save me! Save me!" She's shouting at the top of her lungs. The paramedics come into the room, and I'm slowly backing out, resting my hand on the grip of my SIG P226. "Save me! Save me!" Again and again. The medics try to lift her to put her on the gurney. She lashes out, scratching the arms of the medics, drawing blood. They have to wrap her in the sheet and secure her with the seatbelt straps on the bed. The paramedic told me later that she screamed the whole way to the mental health wing in the hospital, "Save me! Save me!" I was the last one to leave the apartment. I blew out the candles and made sure the stove was off. I had one foot out the door. I quickly ran back to her room, grabbed the little bottle, splashed some holy water onto my hatch gloves, and got the fuck out of there.
I'm Officer Bradley. I retired from the force 10 years ago at the ripe age of 50. I'll begin with a story from my 20 years as a police officer that stuck with me like a deep thorn. January 17th, 2005. We got a call about a woman who had locked herself in her bathroom. She said her boyfriend was trying to kill her. My partner, Mason, and I arrived at a house on the end of a street. The lampposts flickered yellow, and the wind danced the trees and bushes. The clouds were thick, and the air ice cold. We took position at the front door. We knocked. "Police, open up!" Only the sound of wind chimes. Mason kicked the door open with all the force he could muster. We scanned the house downstairs. No one in sight. Clear. "You hear that?" I said. Mason looked up at the stairs. Gentle cries. A woman, so subtle and as if muffled behind a door, in a room. "Thought she was supposed to be downstairs," said Mason. We made our way upstairs. "Ma'am, it's okay," I began. "You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you." The crying stopped abruptly, as if someone hit pause. Then it started again. "But he's still here," replied the woman from inside the bedroom. "My partner and I checked the entire house. No one's here, ma'am. You're safe." Downstairs, the front door slammed shut. My partner and I gave each other a gaze, and I could notice his brow sweating despite the cold night. I used my head to gesture for him to take a look. He stood from atop the stairs and looked down at the front door. "Just the wind, I think," he said. Then a gentle voice came from inside the bathroom. "Are you sure, Officer Bradley?" the woman asked. The entire night at that scene, neither my partner, Mason, nor I used our names out loud, not once. "Ma'am, do you need help or not?" Mason was agitated. "We need to know you're okay, so step back because I'm kicking it in." A part of me believes Mason was more eager to see the woman's face, to find out who she was and how she knew what she did, than he was for her safety. He wanted peace of mind. "No, hold on," I said. "She might be sitting right by the door. We don't want to hurt her." Then she said it. "Officer Bradley, tell Mason that if he touches this door, I will visit his family in the late hours of a certain night and break down a door of my own." The woman's voice was an octave deeper when she said that. I never understood the expression "white as a ghost." Do people actually turn that pale in the face? I learned that they in fact did when I saw my partner react to those sinister words. I couldn't stop him from kicking in that bedroom door this time. But when he did, we found nobody inside. There wasn't a window above the shower through which to escape or another door to go through. And yet we were certain that we just had a full conversation with a woman behind this door. We scanned the entire house, including the backyard, one last time, inch by inch. Nothing. My partner and I communicated non-verbally the rest of the night. So when it was time to leave, we gave each other a look and left the house without even looking back. Now, this is the part of the story I haven't told anyone, not even Mason. We were sufficiently disturbed, so I didn't want to tell him what I'm about to tell you. When we left the house, I drove us back to the station that night. He probably thought I didn't notice, but his hands were shaking too much to drive comfortably. He doesn't drink coffee. As I reversed to the cruiser out the street, Mason didn't look back at the house. But the truth is I did, and I sincerely wish that I hadn't. I looked and squinted at a garbage can by the side of the house to see a strange dark figure kneeling by the gate, as if watching us leave. And as we finally drove away, as the house became more and more distant in our mirror, the figure slowly stood itself up. And I'll swear even today that as it stood up, it didn't stop rising until its head peeked over the roof of that two-story house.